Hi there, it's Paulie here. Yes, just doing a little quick handheld. Yay! Um, I just thought I would share some tales of my father. His birthday has come and gone again. He died a few years ago. So my father was a famous architect, not famous for building incredibly expensive buildings, famous for essentially founding the principles of architectural design for disabled people, for people who have Alzheimer's, for blind people, for the aged. Those were his things, and he established. So, they are establishing a whole international architectural prize in his name, and a little bit of extra fun on that later. Um, yes, who is this Rorschach, and why does he keep drawing pictures of my father being disappointed in me? Um, So, yes, in many ways, a tempestuous genius of a man, like many highly intelligent people. Also, on mature reflection, a little bit of perhaps autism behind there. Allow me to elucidate. So, Dad was very, very well known in wargaming circles in Melbourne, in Australia, back in the 70s and very early 80s, because he used to give me lifts to clubs and to contests and all this sort of stuff everywhere. But he also gave lifts to lots of other kids and so on. So we're all very grateful to him, and he is well remembered for being the guy that would pick you up. However, that hyper focus on architecture, so there would be things like I went overseas with him many times as a kid. You had to memorize like bits of classic Greek architecture, otherwise you wouldn't get your dinner. Yeah, so no, you fool! The metope is between the triglyphs on a classical Doric entablature. Um, Not joking, but he would just get interested in some architecture and just peel away, and Dad would go. Dad was an admirer of the Finnish architect Alvar Aalto. Alvar Aalto was actually a member, or a associate of the Bauhaus. He's a member of the Bauhaus movement. So in the 70s, as I'm a little kid, Dad goes over to Finland to meet Alvar Aalto and takes me with him. And yes, so he meets this lovely old gentleman, and they start looking at this amazing building, and he just sort of, they're just going up. So stay here, just waves, stay here, and off he goes. And doesn't come back. So little me wanders around and is like, oh, the car we've come in is gone. And yeah, but that's okay, because there was a Finnish kid or whatever who came bustling around and about my age, and he just kind of hung out with me. Come with me, he said in a language that I could not in any way, manner, or form understand. But we were kids, we kind of got on together. So he took me on adventures through this forest, and he picked fungi, which made me very nervous, because in Australia, if you picked fungi that you don't, there are very few fungi here that I would touch. But no, he's picking them up, and he's obviously taking them home, yum, 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 to eat. He's sort of saying, this would be great. Okay. And there's some old ruins that we go through, and we climb over this, and then he waves me, come back to this house. All right, come back to his house, and he talks to his mum, and his mum, and they bring me in for dinner and everything. And then finally, as it's getting dark, this car comes back, and Dad gets out of it and like looking a bit sheepish, and like, oh, there you are. Oh, well, you had I hope you had a good day anyway, and it took me years of figuring out that this was not a family that were asked to look after me. These were just some total randos who lived in the area and just sort of, oh, some foreign kid's been kind of dumped, left on the street. You will look after him until his people come back. Yeah, and it's like, so, dear random Finnish people, thank you. I got on very well with people in Finland. I happen to love the place. Discovered an early love of tanks crawling around the tank museum there. But anyway, so fairly typical behaviour for Dad. He was fairly famous for taking kids. Supposedly, we're going to drop you off at a war games club, but he would just have to leap out to deliver some plans to someone. So he'd stop at a house and go in there, and like you'd have to either come in and find him after you've been sitting in the car for an hour, in Australian heat, because he's just like going over plans with someone, or find that no, he's actually jumped in another car and they've gone to look at the building site. Like, oh, so you'd have to phone someone else to come and get you. But Dad's triumph, his absolute most magnificent piece of was going to Israel and forgetting to tell anybody. Hand to God, this actually happened. So I get these calls. I'm in university at the time, living in the colleges and things, and I get this call from my mum, who's just absolutely desperate. Says, your father hasn't come home tonight. There's just no sign of him. And I phoned into the university. He was a university lecturer at that stage. No one's seen him. And so she said, should I start phoning police stations? Should I start phoning hospitals? Like, hang on. Don't yet. You know him. He's probably gone off to look at a building, or he's being him. So that's all right. I'll phone a couple of people, which I did. But no, there was no sign of him. But the next day, I get a call from Dad on a bad line. And he's excited. Oh, yes, look, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. You'd love it here. I've got to get you here. You would love it here. This is amazing. Everywhere I'm going, just looking at this sort of stuff, it's all full of history. And just there's tanks here that I just know that you just know. And there's buildings here. I know you just look at them and you know exactly what they are. I know you're the one I can always tell that. Oh, okay, that's nice. Dad, what? Where are you? What? Well, I'm in Israel. What? Well, I'm currently in Jerusalem. It's amazing. I'm in the old city at the moment, and I'm just Dad, what? You didn't tell Mum you were going. And I got, oh, don't be ridiculous. You don't think I would go to a foreign country and not tell your, hey, could I get you to just give your mum a call for me? And it's like, oh, no, mister, that is a phone call you get to have yourself. I'm dropping you in it for that one. Yes, he had, in fact, entirely forgotten to tell Mum that he was going to Israel for a couple of weeks. In his head, he'd had those conversations, and so that was fine. He's had them in his head, so the conversations have been had. That's not how that works, darling. I got a call from him a few days later, still in Israel, and yes, it's a bad line, but you can sort of hear this in the background. He's like, yes, it's thinking of you again. I'm just in an amazing place. I've come up these country roads, and there's these kind of old kind of broken down tanks or something everywhere. I know you could just look at them and you could just pick them immediately, like you would just know exactly what they are. Someone told me, I think they're like Russian or something like that. Well, they'll be Russian made. Are these things like old wrecks? Oh yeah. They've been there for a while. They just kind of shove them off the side of the road, but it's this magnificent terrain. I'm here looking at the yeshivas up here on the border, and you're up on the border, and behind him he's still this. Yeah, I was talking to these people, but there's no one around at the moment, so I thought I'd just phone you. I said, Dad, yeah, there's no one around you. Yeah, did they all vanish quite quickly, like all heading off as if they were heading somewhere purposefully? I said, yeah, suddenly everyone left. They've just all gone. I said, yeah, find where they've gone, yeah, and go there too. I think they're in shelter. Is there a storm there? So what? Oh, no, but it's clear skies. But there seems to be like a lot of thunder or something. So, yeah, that's artillery, Dad. Are you on the Golan Heights? Yeah, that's where I am. Oh, Christ sakes, man. Find where the locals are and, like, say, room in the bunker for one more. So, God help us. He had his Basil Fawlty from Fawlty Towers moments, indeed, losing his temper and thrashing at machinery. But I do remember him trying to be a gentleman farmer out on, a country property. He's marched off down a hill. There was a tank for water up at the house at the top of the hill, and there was a dam down the bottom, and there was a little petrol-driven pump for sending water from the dam up through a little old pipe up to the house if you needed to fill, the house tanks for doing their garden and that sort of thing. However, For those of you not from Australia, there is a creature called a racehorse goanna. A racehorse goanna is partly called that because it runs about as fast as a racehorse. It's partly called that because it's about the size of a racehorse. Yes, a giant monitor lizard, usually between 6 to like 8 feet from snout to tail. Well, it's decided that the nice flat, bare, packed earth on the other side of this generator, this pump, is a great place for it to just snooze. It's warm earth, but it's not entirely in the sun. It's a great place for a lizard nap. So Dad, who is extremely tall, he comes over and he starts pulling the cord to start this pump and scares the ever-living crap out of this sleeping lizard. Now, the sleeping lizard, it wakes up and its instinct is race for the nearest tall thing and climb it and just get the hell up out of trouble. Well, Dad's 6'7", so he's it. So this thing races up him and clings on for dear life with quite large sickle-shaped claws. Dad, who is desperately terrified of anything even vaguely reptilian, as far as he's concerned, it's all venomous. He's screaming and trying to pull this thing off, and that just means it claws around the back of him and holds on even tighter. So the sight of this tall, spectrally thin man rampaging up the path to the house, desperately trying to tear a huge lizard off his back, while screaming, "Help! Help! It's trying to eat me!" Yeah, I think that's going to be the image of that man that I cherish forever. He was a genius, but he had his definite funny moments. So anyway, happy birthday, Dad, and here's to you. As an interesting supplement on that, look, he was from a born-again Christian background, so the family were and remain deeply, profoundly homophobic, deeply, profoundly transphobic. So, I lost that family. But Dad, at least, when I was going to one of these War Games meets, on the way back, a car clipped our car as we were coming around a corner, and the car went into a spin, and there was a truck coming in the opposite direction. Dad, instead of turning into the spin, timed it and turned to accelerate the spin, timing it so that his side of the car would take the impact and not mine. So we both did manage to walk away from that one. It was a Volvo and built like a tank. But yeah, thanks, Dad.